What's going on, comic fam? It is your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined again for another interview with a comic creator, Jonathan Hedrick. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking comics with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been so fun to get to do this. Like, we've been planning this interview for a while.
Yeah.
But I think we started following each other when I picked up, I think it was the Recount ash can in a Scout comic box.
Right.
We started talking about that a little bit, and we've been following each other for a while, so I feel like we've gotten to know each other. So like, it's good to just be on camera. Like, you even recommended a comic store for me to go to when I was on.
Yeah, that's right.
Check this out.
Very
Luckily,
cool.
I was able to find some of your other books up there that we'll talk about here as well. So, but nice. I'm excited for this.
Me too.
One of the things I just like to start off always with the interview, because I'm just fascinated to know, how did you get into comic creating?
Yeah, it wasn't something that I've been planning for a long time. You know, I've always had like been pretty good at writing according to like my grade school teachers and so forth. It's not something I really flexed so much back then because I just hated school in the first place, and I didn't, major in it in college. But I always liked to dabble in it. I would write short stories in like composition books and just kind of put them away. Never showed anyone. Until one day, about 10 years ago, I had this short story that eventually became my first comic book, Freakshow Princess. And I felt so strong about it because I was so passionate about it. I typed it up and I sent it to a lot of online horror and sci-fi magazines, and it didn't get picked up from anyone. So I just let it kind of clip the digital dust, per se. Then fast forward to about a year and a half ago, I was watching a live YouTube video with a comic book writer named Doug Wagner. He writes The Plastic and The Ride. And I asked him what he would recommend how someone could get into comics. And his advice was just make a comic. Because everything nowadays in the world we live in is available for you to make a comic. With the internet, you can hire someone on the other side of the world, email them the script, they'll draw it for you. They'll email them back to you. Then you can send it to your colorist, in another country, and you can just collaborate that way. And then send it to a printer. So I tried that out, and it worked. One thing, about 3-4 months later, I had a comic book that I wrote in my hands. So
that's gotta be that cool moment when you're like,
so cool.
Oh man, that's sweet. So your first comic then was Freakshow Princess.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so did that start out as like, did it pick up indie publishing? Was it a Kickstarter?
No, I did it all on my own, self-published, paid for everything out of my own pocket. I did shortly after attempt a Kickstarter. It was my very first one, and it was really crudely put together, and it did not get funded. Then I did some more research in Kickstarter crowdfunding and got a lot of advice back to other people so I could see what they did during their campaigns, and I relaunched it back in March, and it was successfully funded then. So yeah, and it did get picked up. It's going to be in a zombie anthology called Mississippi Zombies #2.
Okay.
That's underneath the imprint second site, which is under Caliber Press or Caliber Comics, and it'll be actually a black and white grayscale version of that. So if people are already familiar with Freakshow Princess, if you already have it, well, you don't have this grayscale version. Plus, you'll get a bunch of other cool short zombie stories from other creators too. So when that drops, please pick that up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. That's awesome. Well, since I kind of brought up Freakshow Princess, so you did and we did, and mentioned Kickstarter. You are in the midst of a Kickstarter right now, and it has a similar name to Freakshow Princess.
That's right.
So talk to us about this Kickstarter.
So my current Kickstarter that's live right now is called Freakshow Knight, and that's with a K. And it is, I describe it as a companion piece to Freakshow Princess.
Okay.
I sell both of them as a one-shot, a self-contained story of themselves that you don't require either one to get the complete story. However, you will see common threads and different links in between the two if you've read both of them. So yeah, that's live on Kickstarter right now. It's a different art team, and I chose to do that so they each have their own identity. And as I do more of these Freakshow one-shots, That's what my plan is. They're all going to have different art team, a different main character, but be like combined in the same universe. So
That's cool.
yeah.
So if someone has never read Freak Show Princess, they don't have to read that to hop in. However, I think there's some tiers where you on your Kickstarter where you can get that as well, right? Is that
Um, I put in the frequently asked questions in the Kickstarter that if you did want Freak Show Princess, you just boost your pledge $5 extra, and message me on Kickstarter, and I'll throw that in
awesome
for you. Yeah.
So explain then, someone, what is this world then? So let's focus on Freak Show Night a little bit. What's this world comic that you're creating here that's on Kickstarter right now?
Yeah, so it's a world during the zombie apocalypse, but everyone hears zombies and they're like, oh, zombies. It's been done. Walking Dead and World War Z. There's so many zombie stories out there, but in these stories, zombies play in the background. They're not what's driving the storytelling. Each of these main characters in the Freak Show Kingdom, as I like to call it, are dealing with their own trials and tribulations in life. It just so happens to be during the zombie apocalypse. So Freak Show Knight, the main character, his name is Red, and he's been in and out of prison his whole entire life for violent crimes. He's made a lot of mistakes in his life. And then now he finds himself outside of prison, having to continue that cycle of violence, but during the zombie apocalypse. So it shows his path to redemption, which is an extreme struggle for him while he's out alone amongst the undead.
Yeah. That's awesome. So any of these, the Kickstarter, we'll have the links and stuff in the description of this video. If you're watching this or you're listening on the podcast, you can click over there and get, hop on board. It's going to be ending soon when you're listening to this, so make sure you don't wait around at all. Do you have, I know a lot of people just have different tiers and stuff. Do you have some different levels on this Kickstarter? Like, what are some cool incentives or possibly that people could tap into?
I always like to mention that I have a retailer pledge. I like throwing those into my campaigns because, one, I love to support local comic book stores. They're small businesses. They are the backbone of this industry. And if there's a comic book store that has faith in indie comic books, I want to have faith in them. So I always point that out to even people that aren't owners of a comic book store, because let's say you're not able to back for some reason, maybe you can't afford it right now. Well, maybe talk to your local comic book store, and if they can drop $100, then you're helping them out because you'll buy it from them. They're helping me out, and everyone's helping each other. So
that's cool. I like that idea. That's a really sweet one.
Yeah, and then a new tier that I'm testing out with this campaign I call it the Slabbed Freak Show. So you get all covers raw. There's 6 covers. You get all of them raw, and then an additional one of those will be signed by me. I'll send it to CGC, get it signature series, and you'll get an additional one slabbed, and plus all the other stretch goal rewards. And I did that because it's the year 2020. Everything's shut down. There's no cons. It's harder to get your book signed by creators. So I figured I'd skip the middleman and I'll send it myself. So if you're a collector, you like your graded comic books, you like that yellow ribbon at the top, I'll help you with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because it's a weird time, collecting comics, and getting to do these interviews has, at least for me, been like a Comic-Con experience for me a little bit, because we were set to go to one, I think, like 2 weeks before this all shut down in March. So people, we've been craving it. So that's a really cool idea of getting some books, because people love those signatures and they love the CGC graded ones that are slabbed, that yellow banner. Woo.
Yeah, it's hot.
It is. Yeah. So, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to check out Freak Show Nights. That sounds great. Freak Show Princess was fantastic. A really cool story. If you guys haven't checked it out, by all means, I think this is a great Kickstarter to jump into. A couple other books that I picked up at a shop that you recommended, they had issues 1 and 2 of a series that you are involved in called Capable.
That's right. Yeah. Capable. That's my superhero series. So the elevator pitch for that is, imagine a world where one day people with disabilities wake up with superpowers that are opposite of what their handicap was. So our main character, Derek Davidson, he's in a wheelchair. He's in high school, and he's the typical high school kid, but he just happens to be disabled. So he has to go through the day. He's got his friends, but then he's got his bullies too.
Right.
And then one day he wakes up and things have changed. He's super powered. He can run super fast. And we see in issue 1, almost like his origin story of how he's discovering these powers. Issue 2, we start to dabble into the what some people would do with these powers in the wrong way, which that's what I really wanted to explore with this series is, one day people that wake up with powers may not necessarily do the right thing with them, especially when they've lived in a world where they've been teased, bullied, ridiculed, and all those other difficult situations. So 2 issues are out for that. Issue 3 should be out later on this year. I already finished a 10-page short story that will be part of a different Kickstarter campaign. So lots more with Capable to come.
That's great, because I was going to ask. I was like, please tell me you're going to have more from this series.
Yes.
Because it is such a cool concept, because I think the way you address it, like you said in your elevator pitch, right? Like you've grown up with this, disability, or you've had this disability for a while, and to then, like you said, they have their friends, but you definitely see like how society treats them, looks at them differently, pick on them and stuff like that. And then if they all of a sudden one day wake up and the script is flipped, like, sure, you're going to have some good guys, but you're also probably going to have some of those that have that built up, all that stuff that they've dealt with. And I think it's just an interesting tension to kind of deal with that story. Like, it's not just a straightforward, like, oh, it's a superhero story. Like, it feels like, because you can relate to, I think it was even in issue 2, like you can relate to, the character that they're fighting, because you're like, but what would I have done in that situation and things like that. So I think that's a really cool story idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the idea. I wish I could put it out monthly, so, but right now, in the indie world, things take a little bit more time, but yeah, the more Capable is coming. And I love the interaction I get from fans about it. I was really worried, with it dealing with people with disabilities.
Right.
I don't identify in that community, and I didn't want to be, speaking for them. I didn't want to pander to them.
Right.
But a lot of people have come to me, said thank you for not dealing with it with kid gloves, because I didn't go in there assuming everyone is happy-go-lucky because they're handicapped and everyone treats them okay.
Right.
They deal with some things, and also I'm going to explore things beyond physical disabilities too, because there's mental disabilities. What would someone with a mental disability do now that they have superpowers? So much world to play in with that.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's just is a really interesting concept, and I'm liking how you're, kind of going about it. And I have to say, I'm blanking on, but the art on it was fantastic as well.
Oh, yeah, thank you. My artist, Gino Casmianto, he lives in Indonesia. Great guy. And his brother is a colorist too. They're all in-house. He's not the colorist of those 2 issues of Capable.
Okay.
But I have worked with him on other projects, and really sweet. I mailed him some comps a few months ago, and it took like a month or 2 to get to him on the other side of the country. But he filmed an unboxing and put it on Facebook, and just to see the joy, in his, because it's Indonesia. They don't have it the same way we have it over here. So I can tell he really loves the project too. So he drives me to want to make the project better. And when you have that writer-artist connection, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. So how do you? Because I mean, the art styles on the 4 kind of 3 sort of different stories I've read have all been kind of different. They all have their different feel. How do you go about trying to figure out like what's the right fit for what I'm writing? Because you've written 3 completely different style of stories too, which I think is awesome. Like, it's not all in the same vein. So how do you kind of pick and choose, like, how am I going to figure out what this art fits with this story?
Yeah, I just got to find the artist and their sample work that fits the genre that I'm writing in. With Freakshow Princess, I picked Ben Worrell because he had a very beautiful look to it, and the main character is a female character. So I liked how elegant he drew, his lines. In Capable, Gino has I'm going to say the word juvenile look, but I'm not saying that against his
Right.
art style. It just looks like it's set in a high school world. So that's why I picked him. With Freakshow Knight, my artist Stefano Cardacelli has a very jagged, rough look to it, and that's what I wanted with that, because it's Red, the main character, he's a rough guy. It's not clean, it's not beautiful like the female character in Princess.
Right.
And then Recount, Gabriel Ibarra Nunez, he draws super realistic. It looks like the characters are jumping off the page. And that's what I wanted for that book, because I wanted to try to ground it in reality, as if that could happen in our world. So yeah, it takes a lot. I scroll through a lot of pages on Facebook to find the artist that when I'm starting a new project. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump to the Recount, but real quick before I go, and maybe this can lead into it. How did these stories kind of come to you? Like, is it something that's been sitting with you a long time? Is it something that like you're like, this would be a cool idea? Like, where do you kind of get your inspiration for what you decide to write?
Yeah, it could vary from one project to the next. Usually, to me, it starts off with the what if scenario. I love thinking what if. I was a big fan of the Marvel What If series too. There's so much you can play on in those situations and those stories. So if you ask yourself what if, and then you just change one thing in the world, then you could develop a story that way. When you ask too many what if questions, then you're burying yourself. So
Nice.
that's probably kind of a lame answer.
No, it worked. Well, because I think it's something that's relatable, right? We've all, if you read comics, you all sit around with your buddies and you have that like, well, what if this happened? What if this happened, right? We've all, I mean, I guarantee you that's how the Marvel series had to come up with what if. What if? Like, what do we call it? Well, why don't we call it What If?
Exactly. It's perfect. Yeah.
So you got it on your shirt. I've got the ash can behind me. This is the book that brought me to you. This is the ash can. So I got it in the Scout Comics subscription box. If you're not familiar with ash can, it's like 3 pages. It's like a preview, like, hey, here, let's wet your whistle for us, like get you excited. And I'll tell you what, I read that, and I think I even messaged you. I'm like, I won't, 3 pages is enough. I don't like because I think you guys like, what do you think? I was like, I want more so much right now. So so let's talk Recount. What is Recount about?
So the concept of the Recount is this fictional president who was found to be corrupt and was involved with voter fraud, is impeached, and during his resignation speech, he's assassinated by someone in his Secret Service detail. And then quickly after the assassination, the conspirators come out to the public, announce themselves, admit that they did it and what their plan is. And their plan is to release the voting information to show the public who voted this person into power that was so corrupt, that damaged our country. And then they're encouraging people to attack those people that voted for him, including other people that got him into power, like all the funding people, the Electoral College, other politicians. So it creates this mass hysteria within our country. And in the meantime, the vice president, who was thrust into the new president role, is having to race against time with the only Secret Service agent she can trust, and try to keep together what's left of our democracy during this difficult time. So it's a very fast-paced story set in 4 issues. It's a lot like, I like to compare it to 24 or like a Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy type story. And I think it's just going to be really entertaining if people can put their politics aside, because it's not about politics. The words Republican and Democrat are never used. I myself am apolitical. I'm not intelligent enough in politics to even try to put an agenda in there. The agenda is to entertain, and that's it. So I always like to throw that caveat in there when I talk about the recount, because people, it's controversial. You talk about politicians, you even have a fake president, people are going to try to connect the dots, even if there are none, and get their analogies going.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like in today's political climate that we're in, no matter what side you're on of the party, you're gonna be like, well, oh, see, this is perfect, or this, right? Like, and so I think that could be, I think it's smart to be like, hey, look, this is just a story. There's no, there's no leaning one way or the other, and I mean, sheesh, if you are watching this interview or listening to this interview on one of the podcasts, like, I think you just listening to that elevator pitch, you're like, that's the story I want to read because I'm intrigued.
Thank you.
Like, because it wasn't even like I got a glimpse of like where it was going with the 3 pages. Didn't even see that route, and I'm like, okay, wow, I'm even more intrigued for that. So,
thank you.
Is this now, without giving anything away, like, is this, I saw in the ash can that it's black and white, but I saw like a color. Is it all black and white? Is it color?
Yeah, just the ash can was black and white. And the rest of the series is going to be in full color. The choice to make the ash can black and white was just to expedite it. I actually had the issues 1 through 4 were written, and then one night in like May, I just woke up and I was like, I have a 4-page story. I think it'd be a great like issue 0, and I got to get it done. I have to get it out of my head. And so I wrote it, sent it to my editor. It got approved. Sent it to my artist. I said, hey man, can you just stop everything you're doing and just bang this out real quick? Because I think we could release this in time to help promote later on. Because the gap in between when we had things done until November when issue 1 comes out was a long time. But if we could do something in between, like the ash can, and get people thinking about it, and so I chose not to get it colored. My colorist, Sunil Gagar, he's the same colorist on Freakshow Princess. He's an amazing colorist. I had him just take a back seat on this one, but it still looks, I think it looks fantastic.
Oh, it looks really cool. And I was expecting that was what the series was. And I think right before we hopped on, I saw you posted something like, wait, is this in color? All right. Like, I was like, so I had to get the inside knowledge.
And the great thing about the ash can is those are 4 pages that take place before the events of issue 1. So that's original storytelling. Sometimes an ash can is like 4 or 8 pages of the beginning of issue 1. Think of it as issue 0. So if you didn't get the ash can, look for it. It's out of stock now at the Scout store. Only 1,000 were printed. And you might not see it again until like the trade or something like that.
If you can get your hands on a copy of the ash can, like it's, I was like, what is this? And so let's ask, and let me ask you this, if you don't mind. How does it feel like? Is it different writing? Because it seems like your other books have been kind of like self-published more. Working now with Scout on this one, does it change how you operate and do things and write a lot more then? And like, what's that experience like?
Yeah, it's a similar yet different experience. With the Recount, there's a lot more people invested in it. Since Scout's handling the distribution, a lot of the marketing, they have an investment with this title as much as I do in my art team. So there's lots of cooperation involved, where with my self-published books, I'm acting as the 100% project manager with it. So I have the ability to just say, yeah, no, that's not going to fly, or I want it this way. I'm not a pushy guy or anything like that, but all the deadlines are mine, and I'm going to print it myself, so I'm not concerned if there's no worry about it not meeting Diamond's distribution deadline, things like that. So
that's just because it was interesting to say. So how did you get this story connected with them then?
Yeah, so it was actually a very fortunate event. Last year in November, ironically a year away from issue 1 coming out, I went to Daytona Comic-Con. I live in Central Florida, and I was going there just to Freakshow Princess had just came out a couple of weeks earlier than that, and a buddy of mine that did a variant cover was there, had a table just to sell his art, do some commissions, and I knew James Pruitt was going to be there from Scout. He writes Midnight Sky with them, so I packed up some samples. Have my iPad ready, the script. I said I'll just show it to him.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? And I was talking to him about it, telling him about me being new on the scene and stuff, and he gave me his card and said, email this to me when you get home. I emailed it to him. 2 weeks later, didn't hear back. I emailed Scout again, and then the email started coming. And then it was like, whoa, this might be happening.
Yeah.
So it was fast and furious, and very humbling experience. And like I said, that happened in November. The first issue comes out in November, so it shows you how slow this wheel of making comic books really is.
Right. But yeah, I mean, because so this comes out is early mid-November.
November 11th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you said it's going to be a 4-issue world. Is this kind of one of those, like, you have it contained in a 4-issue world that, like, there's possibilities if it's something people like that could expand? Or is like, do you have visions for that? Or is you like, no, this is going to be a self-contained story completely?
I wrote a treatment for 3 miniseries of 4 issues each. So if all goes well, there could be 12 full issues total, with just the outline that I have in mind.
Right.
And then I've been brainstorming about some one-shots, some like prequel one-shots to flesh out some more story of some of the characters we're going to see in the first 4 issues. So I'd love to do more ash cans in between those story arcs, but it all depends on how well it's received, and so many other factors. But yeah, I would love for it to go the full 12.
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
Great. So as we're wrapping up here, you got the Recount coming out here in November 11th. Freakshow Knight, and then here real soon on Kickstarter. Capable, you said you got more coming in that realm.
Yep.
And it sounds like a loaded question because your plate seems overly full, but do you have anything else kind of down the pipeline that you're processing through that you want to highlight a little bit? Or
Absolutely. So it should be launching, I think, in October. There's a big anthology I'm a part of called Cthulhu Invades Oz, and it's a bunch of indie creators, and I got to write the Tin Man story, and essentially it's what it sounds like. It's the world of Wizard of Oz, and Cthulhu from the H.P. Lovecraft story comes and invades it, and there's all these different stories based off of different characters within Wizard of Oz. And like I said, I wrote the Tin Man story. It's a very dark take on him that's very Captain Abe, Moby Dick style. So he's out sailing the ocean looking for Cthulhu, which is ironic because he's made of tin, and so he's rusting while looking for it. So it's really dark take, and I can't wait till people see that. And there's a bunch of other talent on that. I mean, a lot of other Scout guys, people from Source Point Press. It's going to be a big anthology. So hopefully that launches in October, if I'm not mistaken. Someone else is managing that project.
And what was that called again?
Cthulhu Invades Oz.
Nice.
So hopefully that starts in October. Oh. Then I've been working with Brian Silverbacks, who's another Scout guy.
Did Loggerhead, right?
Yep. Okay. So we're working together on creating some more stories in that Loggerhead universe. So fingers crossed, maybe me and him have a book out, in that world at maybe April of next year, if things work out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for just taking some time to just talk comics. Like it's awesome. I geek out, I nerd out every time that a creator just wants to take time to just talk with me. So I appreciate you giving up some of your evening to do that.
No problem.
People are listening, they want to check out your stuff. What's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Jonathan Hedrick. Search for me on those 3 major platforms, and you'll find me on there. I'm very approachable on any of them, so message me if you have any questions. And if you need to get a hard copy of my book, just let me know, and we can work something out.
Awesome. And yeah, and like I said, all the links for the Kickstarter, all your information for social media and stuff will be in the link in the description, of this video. So make sure you guys click that, go support. Man, I love getting to hear indie creators talk about what they're doing, because you guys just have the coolest stories out there. And I love when people find some of their new favorite indie stories. So definitely follow Jonathan, what he's doing, and check out his stuff. So with that being said, thank you all for watching, tuning in. Hopefully you can find some time this week, curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.